Hey, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to One Cast Fishing. Right now I'm walking back from my mailbox. That's because I got a package in. Now I couldn't wait. I already took out the shipping package, but this is it right here. This is the Shimano 2020 version, the Shimano 20 Metanium. I've been wanting one of these for quite a while now. Obviously it's one of the high-end flagship Shimano reels. When they came back out earlier in the year, they were hard to get a hold of. They were sold out quick. They were on back order. And then COVID kind of screwed everything up with the shipping. But I finally got one. I ordered it from Japan and it got here within 8 days. This reel is going to be a beast. Obviously, it's a high-end Shimano. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to test this thing out. But you know, first what I think I'll do is I'll go inside. I'll find a place to sit down. We'll talk about this reel. We'll unbox it, some of the features for the 2020 version, and then of course we'll go outside and we'll cast it around a little bit and see what we can do. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Well, I think I decided to sit down in my office upstairs. I got a few things behind me that aren't fishing related, but I think it's got the best lighting right now in the house. So this is where we're going to do the unboxing. Again, this is the Shimano 2020 version of the Metanium, the brand new Shimano. And this is the high gear, so it's in 7:1:1. This thing will cost you, it will run you $419 if you buy it someplace in the States. Tackle Warehouse, Bass Pro, Field and Stream Dicks, wherever you buy it retail, it's going to be around $420 in the States. The dirty little secret is if you buy them from Japan, and there's several websites out there, Asian Fishing Portal, even on eBay, you can get them from Japan. There's a couple different sites, probably Japan Import Tackle, I think is the other one. Just do your research, but you can get this for a whole lot cheaper, and I have $300 with shipping in this. So I know that's still really expensive. That's still what most people will not spend on a reel. But for $300, you're not going to get a better reel than this. And again, that's quarter the price off on retail in the States. And the JDM, so the Japanese domestic product version, is virtually the same. It's the same reel. It's just got Japanese writing on it, and all the instructions are in Japanese. But that's okay when you're saving over $100 on it. So with that said, if you're looking for a high-end Shimano or Daiwa or those Japanese reels, looking to have them shipped directly from Japan and save yourself a few bucks. Now let's go ahead and open this thing up. So open up the box here. First thing we've got of all the instructions. And like I said, because this is a Japanese model, it's all in Japanese. So that's the manual, the instructions, and all that, the diagrams, all in Japanese. That's okay. You can go online and download the English version too easy if you need that. So that's the first thing in the box. Then obviously we got the reel, and then obviously in here we've got the oil that comes with it. So here is the reel. Let us open this thing up here and take it out of this bubble wrap. And man, oh man, oh man. Whew. First impressions of this thing, you can take a look at it. That thing is elegant, it's beautiful, it is. It's just doggone sexy is what it is. It is, oh man, it's absolutely outstanding. And it's so smooth when you hear this, so smooth. That's what I would expect though, for a high-end Metanium. That's what you would expect. This thing is absolutely gorgeous, and it looks absolutely solid. Again, this one is a 7:1:1 gear ratio. They offer them in 6:2:1, and then also 8:1:1, which is the extra gear. So pretty much all your fishing needs can be covered by the Metanium, with the exception of maybe deep cranking where you want something in the 5:4:1, 5:1:1 to decrease the torque on you. But anything else, again, the 6 to the 8 gear ratios in this, it's going to be pretty much covered. Now this is the right hand reel here, so it's obviously offered in left hand too. I know there's a little edit in the video there, but I was just admiring the construction of this Shimano. And again, it's beautiful, but it's extremely solid. This is the second Shimano that's ever been offered in a core solid body. And it's the first one that's only been in magnesium. The other one was aluminum. And what that means is, and I'll show you guys from some different angles, that this level wind guard right here, and then this B side plate is all one solid piece. In fact, if you pop this, the brake off here, that's just one solid piece right here. That plate's not coming off. There's no screws, there's There's nothing. You can't take that apart. That's absolutely phenomenal. And let me get this thing back on here. Maybe if I put it on right side up, it would do the trick. So this core solid body, as I was about to say when I pop this thing back on here, much more solid piece. So one, it's going to be extremely rigid. You're not going to get little pieces of dirt in some of those places that you will in other reels. So, and there's no screws. So simpler construction in that regard. Extremely rigid. So any line vibrations or anything you feel coming through the line that's making contact with the reel, it's just going to be that much more solid and that much more rigid, and therefore that much more sensitive. And I think the best part of it is it makes it extremely compact. This thing is going to be very easy to palm. It is very small, especially with the line capacity you get on this thing. This thing is just compact, and it's going to be a workhorse. I can already tell. And I am absolutely impressed with this core solid body here that Shimano's put together. The best thing I think is that it's magnesium, so it's even lighter. Again, this reel weighs 6.3 ounces, so it's not the lightest reel in the market, but man, does it feel like a feather in your hand. So that's absolutely outstanding. So that core solid body is, I have a feeling a lot of reels, or at least a lot of Shimano reels, will continue to go that way in the future, because I can definitely see the benefits with that. So if we move over here to the side of the reel, and this is where obviously where you set your drag. The thing about the Shimano Metaniums, they only have 11 pounds of drag. So if you're out saltwater fishing, or maybe you're striper fishing, or inshore big redfish, or I don't know, up north, pike and muskie, 11 pounds of drag might be a little light for you. But for bass fishing, most freshwater fishing, 11 pounds of drag, that is going to be just fine. In fact, if you hook a 14 or 15 pound fish, you're going to know it's a large one, and you're going to make sure you fight that thing properly to get it in the boat. So I'm not shied away from the 11 pounds of drag, but I know a lot of other bait casters now are going much heavier. I know some of the Lew's I think have 16 or 18, the 1.3s have like 22, so it is kind of light on the drag, how much drag it has on that side. But this drag, though, it uses the CI4 Plus star drag system. CI4, so what is that? Well, CI4, it came out several years ago. It stands for carbon interfusion, with 4 electrons in the carbon atom. In effect, what it basically means is that it's reinforced carbon. So you have a reinforced carbon fiber and drag system in here. So extremely strong, extremely durable, and it's, you know, obviously that means it's going to last you a long time. Shimano claims that the CI4 Plus, which is that this has, the updated newer version, is 2.5 times stronger than the old CI4. So I don't know how they test that. I haven't seen any studies or math on that, but that's what they say, is that the carbon fiber drag system in this is going to be 2.5 times stronger than previous versions. So that's definitely a true upgrade. I don't know really how you would test that, but that's what Shimano's claiming. So we talked about the drag in here. If I turn this thing, you can hear it a little bit. But that just sounds so smooth. There's obviously nothing grinding. It's just like butter, as I said earlier. The new Shimano Metanium uses the micro module gear system, but this time it's in brass. So instead of aluminum, it's going to be a brass gear. Allows for a little more durability. It should last longer. But they actually end up using smaller teeth and more teeth in there, so there's more contact in those gears, which just allows it to be a lot more smooth upon your retrieve. So that's a plus there as well. The next thing about, I haven't explicitly mentioned this yet, but obviously we're talking about the 2020 Metanium and not the Metanium DC, which has the IC5 braking system inside here, and it's got the digital control in the spool to help decrease your spool speed as your line goes to hit the water. That reel came out in 2015. The previous Metanium, regular Metanium version, came out in 2016, and it was the Metanium MGL. Now the 2020 version also has an MGL spool. In fact, it's the MGL version 3 in here, MGL 3 spool. MGL stands for Magnum Light. It's an extremely lightweight spool, and the way Shimano's designed it is, as line is coming off your reel here, right, and that bait begins to descend in the water, it helps slow down the inertia of that spool. So again, it helps prevent backlash. It should increase your casting distance, enable better accuracy. And what's really important is that when you throw extremely light lures, this thing is supposed to do it really well because of the Magnum Light spool, and you're not going to have backlash, or at least it's much harder to backlash it. And the version 3 here, this MGL 3 spool, which is upgraded from the previous Metanium, is supposed to decrease that inertia on the spool by an additional 15%. So Shimano claims that. Again, I don't know what the math is, but if that's the case, this reel is going to be way far superior than the previous Metanium MGL version. So the last thing to talk about before we go outside, line this thing up and go test it out, is let's talk about the braking system. So this has the SVS Infinity braking system. So what that means is that there's actually brake weights inside the spool here that when you cast out, it helps counteract that with this. So the last thing to talk about here the last thing I want to highlight before we go outside and go throw this around a little bit and see how it performs is the braking system. So this Shimano has the SVS Infinity brake system in here. And what that means is Shimano's got little brake weights inside this spool here. So when you make your cast out there, those brake weights help counteract that with the inner friction, will counteract the momentum of this spool with the inner friction of those brake weights to help slow it down, help it be more smooth, right? So you maintain a consistent speed there, which eventually leads to when your bait hits the water, you're not going to get a backlash and overrun. At least it's much harder to do so. Not saying it's impossible to backlash these, because it is, just like it's not impossible to backlash from Metanium DC, because it is, and I've done it. But these high-end Shimanos with their braking system on here, they're much harder to do, and they're much more fun to fish that way because you're not spending time picking your line out. The last thing with the braking system is obviously you got your external braking dial on the outside here, and then you've got internally, you've got 4 brake settings as well. So we're going to go outside now. We're going to go play around with this. We'll see how it performs, and stay tuned because I'm excited to get out there and see how far I can fling this thing and see how well it does with the light lures. So I'll see you guys in a couple seconds outside. So made it outside here, standing on my dock out on the lake. We've got a little bit of crosswind today, about 10 miles per hour. So hopefully the audio will be okay. But it will affect the casting distance a little bit because that jig is going to get caught as I cast across. But we should get an idea of what this reel, this Shimano Metanium 20 is capable of. Now I've got it rigged up on a 7-1 medium heavy rod. This is a St. Croix rod, Mojo Bass Rod Series. It's going to be another jig setup for me. So I tied on a 1/2 ounce football head jig with a Reaction Innovation Sweet Beaver. And this is what we're going to do to test it. Right now for my internal brakes, and let me pop this open for you guys so you can see. So the internal brakes are here. Let me step up here so you guys can see that. So when these things are up in place, that means the brake is off. And then when it's out all the way, it means it's on. So right now I've got 2 of the internal brakes on and 2 of them off. So typically when I go to dial in a rod, because I've got a lot of practice casting, obviously, I'm going to make sure I've got it set up where it's basically at medium setting internally, and then I work the same on the external settings as well. So again, I want to start off with the series here. The Metanium goes from 1 to 6 on the external dial. You guys can see that up there on the external dial. I'm going to set it on number 3 to test it off with. So with that said, I'm going to turn around here, probably transition to the chesty look here, and we'll cast this thing around for a few minutes. So let's make this cast here. Oh man, that is smooth. Decent casting distance. So all the way across there is about 50 yards. You go on Google Maps, it's 50 yards across. That was probably about, I don't know, 35, 38 yards across there. Again, I did some measurements on Google Maps to kind of estimate how far it is. So let's do it again. Again, this thing just casts super smooth. As you can tell, that spool definitely slows down at its highest point in the air. So obviously, I think it's going to be very hard to backlash thing. I'll probably have to turn the brakes all the way off. Again, that jig is getting caught up a little bit when I cast it way up there. It's getting caught up in that wind. So maybe let's do a sidearm cast and see if we can see how that performs. About the same, maybe a little less distance there on the sidearm cast. And that was going, a little wind gust right there. But again, pretty happy with that on the medium settings. The 2 internal on and 2 internal brakes off, and then halfway on these external braking. So let's go ahead and turn this down here. Let's turn down to 2. Let's just go down 1 and take that down to 2 on the brakes and see how this thing performs now. Let's do a cast out. Well, that got caught up, but that is a little bit further, I believe. That looks closer to about 40 yards out there. And again, when I cast that thing way up there, it's getting caught in the wind. Now we got another big wind gust here, but let's try it again. That one drifted a little bit farther because I'm at an angle there. Again, I think that's about 40 yards across there. And I haven't dialed this in necessarily to the absolute sweet point, but man, this thing is amazing. It casts so smooth. It obviously reels extremely smooth. I love that. And again, you can talk about the ergonomics. This thing's very easy to palm. And it's very low profile. It's absolutely outstanding. So let's take this back a little bit more to just over number 1 there. Again, the point's right there. You can see the setting and number 1. So we're just above number 1. Let's see how this thing goes. Definitely further there. That's still probably 40 yards, but on the cast, you can see the line starting to come up, and it seemed like it wanted the backlash, and I had to thumb it a little bit. But overall, very good control with that. And again, this is the crosswind in here, so it's not perfectly ideal to get maximum casting distance. It's not a calm day, but that handled that really well. Let's do it one more time here. You know, I went a little bit further, and I flicked this rod a little harder, so I didn't get that bait as high into the air, and definitely got a little more casting distance out of that. Again, man, I love this. This is super smooth. Let's just got a little grass, and there's a lot of grass in this lake, so flick that off here. Let's do one more cast here on this setting. Let's see if I can flick that again. I jacked that one up, and it wanted the backlash, but by the time it got to the end of its cast, it worked itself out. So absolutely outstanding. Outstanding. So one thing we talked about earlier was how this Metanium 20 with the SVS braking system and then the MGL spool is supposed to be really good at light lures. And so I wanted to test that out here. And so what I did is I took a 1/8 ounce shaky head, and I just put what I had handy, a little TRD on there. So this is about as finesse as you can get. And again, this rod is rated for 3/8 ounce. It's supposed to be the minimum. So we're going to see how well this thing casts. We're going to see how well it casts in this wind here too, because this is awful light setup here for this rod, and we'll see how this reel handles. So let's do it. All right, so we're about to cast out this little shaky head in TRD. All I did is I turned the brakes up to 3.5 here. The internal brakes are still set at 2. We're going to cast this thing out and see how it does. Oh my Lord. You've got to be kidding me. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that had to be 30 yards at least. Again, got a little bit of crosswind here, but it's not really blowing the lure that much. Let's do this again. That's outstanding. No backlash whatsoever. And that's further than I can throw it on my spinning setup, this little setup here. And I think about what I can throw a 10th ounce or maybe a 6 ounce Ned rig. This is going at least that far, and that's on a spinning setup. That's outstanding. And you know what? Let's adjust this tension control knob to set it up ideally so it slowly falls. There we go. Let's test this out again. All right, so that was about 35 yards, a little further. I had a little bit of overrun there because I loosened up that tension. But not bad at all. This is freaking amazing. With reels like this, you can kind of get away with your spinning setup. You don't got to do that anymore. Let's tighten the brakes up a little bit to maybe 4 here. See how that does. That is almost as far as that big heavy 1/2 ounce jig on there. This is absolutely outstanding. I can't believe it. This little thing is going almost as far as that big heavy jig. You don't need doggone spinning setups anymore. Not with this reel. Man, I wish I could afford to buy about 6 of these. Let's throw it into the wind. Sorry for the wind here on the audio, but we're gonna throw it into the wind. So a little bit of overrun there. To be expected. I didn't tighten it down, increase the braking throwing into the wind. So Obviously, if you're throwing into the wind directly, you have to make a little bit of adjustments, which that's to be expected on any setup. Let's see if I can pick this out here. The good thing is, it seems like it's not that bad of a backlash. Just gotta pick it out a little bit. I may have to do a little more here. Let's get out of the wind. Oh, no, didn't get it all. All right, so I tightened the brakes up here to almost 5. I'm gonna throw it back into the wind after I get this grass off of it. And this is gonna be the last cast here because I see the storm rolling in. I can see the rain coming. So let's do one more cast here. Not quite as far, but the brakes are up and into the wind. So that is still pretty smooth. Pretty awesome here with this little 1/8 ounce reel. Absolutely outstanding. And when I say 1/8 ounce reel, I mean 1/8 ounce shaky head and TRD. Not a lot of weight on that, and that thing will cast still pretty amazing. So absolutely outstanding. So that's it. Let's go ahead and do the outro here in a second after I get out of the wind. Man, that wind took it that time. All right, so back inside now, and if I point over here with my finger, you can see some of that wind. Storm just blew in here. It hasn't started raining yet, but big gusts came up. It's probably 30-mile-an-hour winds at least out there now. We got whitecaps on the lake. Any thoughts of me going fishing to try to catch some fish on that new reel tonight is not going to happen. But with that said, hopefully you enjoyed my review of the Shimano Metanium 20. Again, it's a high-end reel, but I was really impressed with it. It's very small, very compact, ergonomical. It looks great. It obviously casts my 1/2 ounce jig further than my current jig rod. Again, that's a setup I had planned to use with it. But when I tied on that 1/8 ounce shaky head, that little TRD, and I was able to cast that thing, it seemed like almost as far as that jig. I know it wasn't, probably 5 yards less, 5 or 10 yards less, but it was further than I could throw it with my spinning setup, and it's absolutely amazing and phenomenal for that. I was extremely impressed with the ability for it to control a light bait, and especially in the light bait in that wind. And I may end up using it for top water, for like a small splash it, or I may end up using it for some other finesse baits because it's absolutely phenomenal for that. And I'm extremely impressed. So again, I know the reel is expensive. Again, it's $419 in the States, but take a look at buying them directly from Japan. You can get them on eBay, Asian Fishing Portal. You save about $100 on it. And again, for $300, you're probably not going to get a better reel at that price point. So again, appreciate you watching. Let me know down below if you have a Shimano Metanium. This one, the other one, the DC. I'll probably do a comparison between it and the DC in the future. And just let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you think you want one. And again, I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you subscribe, you like, comment, and I'll see you guys out there next time. A Lunkers One Cast Away.